Today we'll be just comparing the iPhone 16e with the S25, and we just see like how these phones are different from each other. Obviously I wouldn't go like in details about the spec of these phones because you guys know already, but I would like to know like about the chipset on these phones. So on the S25 on the right we get to see the Snapdragon 8 Elite for Galaxy, which is the latest and greatest chips from the Qualcomm itself. On the left, on the iPhone 16e, you're just getting a 18 chip from the Apple, which is quite a nice chip. I would just say there's like a more ahead of that you can expect from these phones both together, and these are very different phones if you just like try to put things into perspective. Price wise, obviously the S25 is a little bit expensive than the iPhone 16e, but the design language and like size wise the phones feels pretty much similar. We talk about the RAM on these both phones. Obviously the iPhone 16e has the 8 GB of RAM while the S25 has the 12 gigs of RAM. Nevertheless, like with regards to the performance itself, like these phones doesn't feel so much different than each other. The 8 GB RAM is pretty much optimized on the iPhone 16e, which performs really well on this one. But the price wise, if you think about, so the iPhone 16e, like I would be just skeptical in just getting this phone. So let's compare these devices like side by side. So if we talk about the front screen, so you're just getting these notch, like a big notch. I know, I don't know like why Apple is being just connected to this notch itself. It doesn't look good at all. On the S25 you're just getting the punch hole camera, which looks like a much more nicer approach that the Samsung has adopted from all of its lineup. Even the island, I would just say, on the 16 Pros and the 14 Pros, which started from the 14 Pro, I don't like that one a lot. Like that takes a chunk of a space. I think the camera itself could be just made punch hole, and the Face ID recognition system could be just made under display. Would be a best choice that the Apple can go ahead in the future, because it doesn't look like very good at all in at this price point. Like even if you take the A36 from the Samsung, that has a much more appealing design than the iPhone 16e. You just get a lot of thick borders on this one. And the worst thing I would just say about this phone is the 60 hertz display. Like at this price point you're just getting a 60 hertz display. Like even the budget phone from the Samsung lineup, you just get to see like 120 hertz display, 120 hertz display, or you can say like 90 hertz display, which is like way beyond, which is like way below in the segment. Like kind of a budget phones are just getting 90 hertz, but like most of the phones these days are like coming with a 120 hertz display at minimum, I would just say. And like this, that has been kind of a standard since long time. Now how that would just affect your user experience? So in my opinion, that this will just ruins your user experience a lot on the iPhone 16e. You just notice that one a lot if you have just ever used like a 120 hertz display or higher hertz display than the 60 hertz display. You'll just prominently like notice that thing, while and that will just ruin your user experience, because the screen is like a first point where you interact with your device, and once you just get a poor experience from that, so your whole experience has been ruined. The animation feels kind of laggy. That's auto because it's a 60 hertz display, so that will be just as expected. Like you'll get the same like a quite low refresh rate and a very laggy kind of phone. You'll just feel even the chip itself is pretty much capable, but still you're just going to see that thing like in this phone. On the S25 you get pretty much a smooth experience. I would just say you get like one of the best experience you can get. It's like a mini flagship, I would just say, if you want to just get experience of the bigger brother S25 Ultra. So this device will be the closest that you can get the experience what you can have from the S25 Ultra. I would just say it has like one of the bestest One UI 7. I would just say one of the bestest, I would just say, in the Android market right now. Much more refined, so much refined that it is so much smooth. Animation feels much more nicer. And if I just drop down, so you just see the notification panel over here, it's just almost like a similar approach, which is leading towards what the Apple is doing, I would just say. Personally, like the drop down notification panel, I much more like on the One UI 6. It's just a personal preference, but I just like a little bit better. Like once you drop down, so you have the notifications down and you have the notification toggles like on top. That I like a little bit much more. On the iPhone, you're just getting the similar experience. I would just say much more similar than the S25, it is you get in Apple way. On the Android way, you're just getting on the S25. uh, Nevertheless, like both systems are great in their own way. The iOS 18 is I still feel like it's not that great with regards to, like, obviously if you just logged into the Apple ecosystem, so the multitasking you might not be needing. That's the reason that you're just getting the iPhone 16e, or maybe even if you just pick up an iPhone 16 Pro. So the software wise, these both phones like replicate quite nicely to what the flagship phone has to offer, despite the fact like the iPhone 16e had a 60Hz display, but it has the latest software that you can expect from the iPhone 16 Pro. But the user experience you're just getting is not that much great, or wouldn't depict as the iPhone 16 Pro, the way the S25 depicts the S25 Ultra. And here you'll be just feeling a little bit just behind while just getting this device. And in my opinion, like if I talk about the software itself, so I just incline towards a little bit of towards a multitasking phones. Sometimes you have to just open a multiple windows. You cannot do that in Apple, like on the same screen the way you can do it on the S25 at this price point. So I would just throw a little bit more bucks, I would just say, and I would just get much more better experience from the Android itself. And that's mainly would be making a device much more future proof. And obviously it will be just getting the Android like 7 Android major upgrades on the S25. And we just see like how those updates will be rolled out by the Samsung itself, because we are still just waiting on the One UI 7 on the S24 Ultra, and we didn't get to see up till now. I'm not sure like why Samsung is delaying, but that's quite annoying, I would just say, regarding that factor. And in the future we'll know like when this device will be just getting the like I think Android 22 on this device, probably much more later, I would just say. And if we talk about the iOS on the iPhone 16e, so it's obviously Apple has always been great with regarding the rolling out the software itself on its phones. And I would just say that if you're just want to keep your device up to date with the newer devices, I would just say like the Apple will be the better choice in this regard. If you just put things into perspective, let's talk about the locking system on these both phones. So the iOS, obviously the Apple iPhone 16e has the its proprietary face ID recognition system, which like have a drawback and like a positives, I would just say. On the S25 you're just getting the fingerprint scanner, and you can also unlock from the face from the camera, from like it has a face unlock. But obviously like more secure version is the fingerprint scanner on this one, and on the iPhone 16e you have the face recognition system. Now the drawback of the face recognition system, the most I feel like, it's like once your device is just lying down flat on the ground itself, or maybe on the table itself, so you will just see like you have to just let's say for example I have to open this device, so you just swipe up and you have to just wait to put in the code to unlock the phone, which is quite annoying. I would just say it would be better like if the Apple would have just included the Touch ID on this phone, that would be much more better. And you have like a multiple locking systems on this one. Somewhere like a Face ID is pretty much seamless, I would just say, in the perfect working lighting condition, even if it's dark, like a dark black, so you just get the Face ID working pretty seamless. But nevertheless, like I would just say like the once you're just lying down on a bed and you have a like a face in your pillow half, so the Face ID just struggles to recognize your face, and you have to just wait after swiping up to just unlock your phone. On the S25 you're just getting the fingerprint scanner, which I just like much more. But the drawback is that like once you are putting the screen protector on the front, so the compatibility of the fingerprint scanner is reduced, if especially if you're just using the tempered glass protection, like somewhere it just makes the compatibility being reduced on this phone. Nevertheless, like both have systems are pretty much great, but it's still like they have their own flaws, I would just say. But yeah, these are like the best systems you can get for unlocking the device itself. Let's talk about the design itself. So if you talk about the design on these phones, so size wise these are pretty much similar phones, I would just say. The S25 being slightly bigger, I would just say, with regards, but very similar experiences you just get like while just seeing the thickness on these phones. pretty much similar thickness you'll just get out of these both phones. So if we talk about the left side, so you get absolutely nothing, just two antenna bands on the S25. On the Apple iPhone 16e, you're just getting one SIM card tray, volume up and down, and action button, and then there's two antenna bands. On the top, you're just getting the antenna bands on both, and you get just a noise cancellation mics, which is a great thing. I would just say iPhone 16e doesn't have, it has just one on the back to record the spatial audio. On the other side, if it comes, so you get the two antenna bands on the iPhone 16e, and then you just get the one power up button, and on the S25 you're just getting the volume up and down, and you're just getting the power button on the S25 with one antenna band. So on the bottom you get to see on the S25 one speaker, you get the Type-C charging port and the SIM card tray, noise cancellation mics, and two antenna bands. On the iPhone 16e you're just getting one speaker, you get the mic and the Type-C charging port. So pretty much similar design, I would just say, but yeah, the layout is being different on these both phones. But if you just hold these both phones, so they feel pretty much similar with regards to like in holding terms. They have like a pretty similar design. Like on the iPhone 16e you're just getting slightly more rounded corners, on the S25 you're just getting slightly less rounded corners, which means like the real estate display on the S25 you'll be just getting a little bit more real estate of display over on the S25. If you talk about the back of these phones, so they have like pretty similar experience in terms of the touch. I would just say pretty much smooth. iPhone is slightly rough, I would just say, but the S25 feels much more smoother than the iPhone 16e. The camera wise, obviously you're just getting the triple camera setup on the S25 and on single camera setup on the iPhone 16e. You get LED flash on both, and then there's one mic at the back to record the spatial audio on the iPhone 16e. Obviously you're just getting much more versatile camera on the S25, which I would just give a lot of points in terms of the versatility. Like if you're spending additional bucks on the S25, so you'll be just getting much more better experience with regards to that one. The color itself, it's just subjective. Both colors are great in their own ways. The white on the iPhone 16e looks pretty much nice. On the S25, the blue, I really like the blue color as well on this one. Both are like great in their own ways with regards to the colors. It's pretty much subjective, so you guys can choose regarding that one, which one you prefer. The experience about the animation on these both phones, so they are obviously very much similar, but the thing is that on the S25 you're just getting much more better experience. I would just give points to the 120Hz display, which just makes things much more smoother on the S25. On the S25 obviously you can just do multitasking, so maybe if you want to open this one, so you can just maybe open Indeed, and then you can just make it like in a split screen. You can just open like another app, you can just make as big as you want to each of the apps. So with that regards, like I would just say like the Samsung is much more ahead with regards to the iPhone 16e. Like in every perspective, I would just say the S25 would be a better choice in this regards. You can just maybe spend a little bit more bucks, and then you will be just having more features that will just last you a long time and which enhance your user experience regarding this one. If we talk about the battery life, so battery life is just subjective. Obviously the iPhone 16e has a 60Hz soft display, so you're just getting slightly better battery life on the iPhone 16e than the S25, but nevertheless the battery life has been great on these both phones. But if you're just looking for the slightly better battery life, so I would just say to just upgrade to S25 Plus. That has like a excellent battery, better than the S25 Ultra, because that's kind of a sweet spot that you can get out of it, but that's slightly expensive at that price point. So if you talk about these both phones, obviously I would just probably be just heading towards the S25, like slightly lower battery, but yeah, you're just getting a better experience over here on the S25. So if we talk about the speakers on these both phones, so we just hear these both speakers on this phone and we'll just see like which one performs better. So first we just play the music on the S25, iPhone 16e, initial impressions, I can just say like the both are like similar what you get the experience on the S25 Ultra and the iPhone 16 Pro. So in a way that I'm saying like the S25 is louder than the iPhone 16e, like the S25 Ultra is louder than the iPhone 16 Pro, and the iPhone 16e has a more depth to it. I would just say it feels like a much more speaker kind of thing, I would just say. As you notice with the iPhone 16 Pro, obviously the speaker is not as great as the iPhone 16 Pro, but the same scenario just feel with the iPhone 16e, but slightly lesser experience, I would just say. But obviously these both speakers are still pretty much great. So on the iPhone 16, you're just hearing more depth, and the S25 has like kind of a more volume to it, I would just say. So like if you're in like a louder place, so the S25 would be a better choice for you. If you're just laying down on a bed and you just want a little bit of depth while watching a movie or Netflix on your phone, so the iPhone 16 might be a better choice regarding that one. But obviously you don't make a decision on just on the basis of the speakers of these both phones, because these both speakers are pretty great, I would just say, in their own ways. And the overall experience that we'll be just looking out of the device itself, we'll just discuss that one later, and we'll just see which one to go for. So let's talk about the displays on these both phones. So both displays are like great in their own way about how they have just calibrated the display itself. On the S25, I just noticed like I incline towards a little bit toward the S25 being a more color popping display. It looks much more nicer to the eyes. The iPhone 16e just went with a much more natural look, and one thing I'm noticing, like the iPhone 16e is just getting much more brighter than the S25. It's not to the point like where you just notice like it's kind of annoying, but yeah, I noticed like it's a little bit more brighter than the S25. Nevertheless, like the both displays are pretty much great in their own perspective. The colors are pretty nice, and once I just zoom in, so obviously just if I just have to just get on the basis of the screens, I would just definitely be going towards the S25, but because you're just getting so much better experience on the S25 overall, if you just consider if you see the notch over here, so that's quite obtrusive on the iPhone 16e than the small punch hole camera on the S25. The S25 punch hole camera is much more easy to absorb and to let it go once you're just watching the video. You can just totally ignore this punch hole camera, but on the iPhone 16e it's pretty much hard to just ignore this big notch on the phone. It's just quite obtrusive, I would just say. Now I would like to just give a final verdict on these both phones, obviously. So the answer would be like if you guys ask me like which device I would just choose, so obviously the answer is just subjective to like what you require from the device itself. If you want like one of the bestest Android experience, so the S25 would be much more of a better choice that you can get. But if you're just looking for the best iOS experience, obviously the iPhone 16e would be the choice. But nevertheless, I would never opt for this device, iPhone 16e. It's totally not worth the price. I would just say I would just rather get an Android, or maybe if I want to just or I'm logged into the Apple ecosystem, I would just go towards the older iPhones, which might be the iPhone 15 Pro. That will be just much more value for your buck, I would just say, and not the iPhone 16e. You're just letting go so much of user experience out of this phone at this price point. You can just get maybe iPhone 15 Pro would be the best choice you can get out of. You will just also get the so much versatile camera. You get 120 Hz display and better experience with regards to the battery itself as well. While if we just talk about like it's just usually a subjective like what you prefer and what you're looking from the device itself. But S25 like it's much more bang for your buck, I would just say, that you're paying like so yeah, so you guys can let me know like which device would you guys prefer, and if you guys have any questions you can just let me know down in the comments, and please like, share and subscribe, and thank you for watching again. Have a good day. Bye.